Good afternoon, everyone. Kelly, thank you for setting up the music. And what this music represents for me is basically holidays. And holidays is something where we start seeing a lot of activities from the cybersecurity side as well. You would be shocked to know that holidays is one of the favorite time for scamsters, actors, bad actors of all form to start sending you phishing links, try to deliver malware, ransomware. However, what we are going to discuss today is going to be a step further. If you can see, the title states it's the next generation of threats, which is stopping evasive ransomware, evasive malware, and evasive phishing. It is not just that we are dealing with ransomware, malware, or phishing, which is a talk of tomorrow. I'll walk you through and tell you what is going to be the big difference between these two things. I would not I'll try to make sure that this is an interesting topic. If I am boring you, please raise your hands. We'll discuss more and I'll bug you more there. So to kick off, you guys know Rajiv. Rajiv is the managing director for Synoptiq, and Rajiv and Synoptiq, the whole team from Synoptiq is a authorized partner, technology partner for us. They handle most of our business for the West region, and we've been lucky enough to close a good deal recently with Rajiv. And Rajiv, thank you again. And I am like Ahmed. I handle the regional sales for Menlo Security across India. We do also spread business across the SARC region in a very minimal ratio. All right, getting started to Menlo. For many of you, this might be a pretty new name, but what is going to be a big factor, which I would want to tell you, is that we are a pretty old company, been there for 12 years in a sense. Anything more than 10 is pretty old for me. And the reason I say this again is because of the customer clientele base we've had in the past 12 years. We started, phishing, putting out the product in 2015. And from 2015 till now, we've had almost around 800 customers. We have 8 million active users. We are based out of California as headquarters, but then again, Singapore is the regional headquarters. And one good factor for all the Indian customer base or the prospects we talk to is that we have a COE office in Bangalore, where we have more than 70 folks. Now we process customer support, professional services, and major part of development that happens in Bangalore. So this is a solution which you can look at with local support. Another number which you see here is 400 billion web sessions annually. So if you're wondering what it means is that Menlo Security processes around 1.2 to 1.3 billion web sessions every day. So this is a major chunk of internet which we process. You are going, the reason I'm stating this fact is because how I would continue the conversation further on what is that we see from the evasive side. Now, our clientele comes from a lot of government and defense sector, infrastructure, global 2000 customers. We have 8 out of 10 largest banks are as customers, especially the 3 banks in Singapore, all our customers. Credit card companies heavily rely on us. And from the logos which you see, Department of Defense is the biggest customer for us. Just from Department of Defense, I think we have 3.5 million users. JP Morgan and Chase, a very big name in the banking industry. And however, they are the first customer for Menlo Security. It is one of those firms who bought a security solution and then started investing it. So JPMC became the first customer for us. They worked with us, they adapted the solution, and then they were like, okay, we got to invest into this, because this is how this was a very futuristic talk when they became a partner. So they have been a customer for a long time, and they still are an investor for us. And the others name which you see, which can look locally here is Citibank, the NBCs, HSBC, Visa, Singapore Airlines, a lot of good clientele. And if you have any more questions in regards to these clienteles on what use cases they are using, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you through. Now, coming to what we are going to cover, what in today's session, the first thing we would be covering is what is heat shield. What is, when heat stands for, is highly evasive adaptive threats. So what is that we provide you security against the evasive and adaptive threats which you see? How is that we help you with the secure document and archive viewers? What is web isolation? So we'll oversee these. Right. Now, coming to the next slide, you can see here the anatomy of evasive threats. So how has it gone? The ransomware or malware was something which was delivered to you with a link where you would click on it and you would start working, or there would be factors which would tell, okay, this is an evasive threat or a ransomware threat. But what has happened is now a ransomware is not directly delivered to you as a ransomware. It is the primary resource where we bifurcate traffic is depending on a proxy or a secure web gateway to understand that, okay, we are reaching out to the right site. Now, these categorized sites, which we categorize as good sites, those are the ones which are used to deliver you malware. And if you can see on the left side, it says 70% of the attacks with malware origins are always traced back to a categorized site. Now, you can ask, how is that my dependence on categorized site is? Anything which you're viewing today, any news which you're viewing, anything which you're scrolling on the browser is 90% of the times a categorized site. Now, what happens is the malware itself is encrypted inside the JavaScript. It is HTML smuggled into the payload. And once you click on that link which you open, you do not have to click on anything. You do not have to have a kick play for any execution of the code. You just have to open. I can send you a Soghalish malware or a ransomware when you're just wanting to view any website or any news site. So this is how it's easy for people to be breached. Now, this is something which we see. And in the last past, on a monthly basis, what we see is more than 2 millions of password protected files are always passed through these sites. So it's not just the malware which is there, but then again, you also have your password protected files. It is easy for anyone to breach those. All right. Now, coming to how is the phishing? Phishing is something which we used to look at. Okay, any of you who recently had a phishing training would say that, okay, the first thing which you have to look at any time when you click on a link or go to a URL is to see the URL and say, okay, this is a URL which is good. This is how we used to, figure out phishing from a human perspective. But then again, it evolved, especially post-COVID. Phishing has evolved a lot. As with time, the sophistication of phishing attacks have gone. Now you have kits which are available, which you can use as a phishing kits. 90% of the attacks are happening. It's not just one person who's trying to phish you. It is a kit which is available in the market. We can just go subscribe and start phishing your, targeted audience. Now, post-COVID, what has happened is phishing evolved into links being delivered to you with SMS, WhatsApp, and especially in India, we actually can see a lot of scams coming up where you have a wedding invitation which comes to you, which is basically a APK file. In the same format, there were sites which were sent to you on WhatsApp, which you could just click on. And phishing links in documents was something. Then came in the captchas. So whenever you would try to have a captcha which you try to upload or write in, there would be again factors who would just push you out, or MFA push fatigue. This is something which is we've been seeing. But what we have off lately started seeing is AITM, which is basically advisory in the middle framework. Anytime you are trying to log in into a genuine site which is working out or is a trusted site for you, what happens is an advisory can be sitting in the middle who's grasping your traffic because he has access to your browser. Now, browser is where the whole execution happens. Browser is where you input all your credentials. Once you put in those credentials, that advisory is going to pick up those credentials, then again route you to a different, very benign site. So these are the things which we see in phishing. Phishing is not just a training which we do, but then again, it is one of the biggest cybersecurity crimes that happen every day. And if you pick up any report from the past few years, you'll see that phishing and credential theft have been the biggest factors. And this is what I was talking to you about, session hijacking and the MFA bypass. So what usually happens is the victim receives a phishing link, which has an email. When the victim clicks on it, the phishing acts as a reverse proxy. So it captures your actual request and then again pushes out to the attacker who has, because the attacker has access to your cookies. He has access to whatever you're looking into. So one major common factor here since I started till now is the browser. Every execution of this is happening over the browser, right? A few use cases where we perform or provide security is something called heat shield, highly evasive adaptive threats. Now, what we do is we are not a detection based security solution which looks into only the URLs or gives you a categorization of what sites you can trust or what sites you cannot trust. We are not a secure web gateway company who just tells you, let me give you a secure web gateway. However, what we do is we give you a browser, which is not your local browser. You can keep using your local browser, but then again, in conjunction to that, we give you a secure cloud browser. So anytime you open a browser, what you would be viewing is a replication of our secure cloud browser. Now we have 44 POPs throughout the globe on which these browsers are open. And India, we have two POPs. One is in Delhi, one is in Mumbai, one is in Hyderabad. Now what you see here on the top is the element URL. This is where basically your phishing protection, which has any detection basis, looks into. Now this is not going to be effective because a URL, you can look into a URL, but for any security solution to tell you that this is a phishing link URL takes around like 6 days. Right, that doesn't work. If I send Rajiv a phishing link today and Rajiv gets to know about it on the 7th day, telling that, okay, what the site which I visited is a phishing link, it makes no sense. It is not going to be enough for 2024 or as we enter 2025 to be secure enough, right? So you need to have real-time analysis of what's happening. So what we as Menlo do is every time you open a link, every time you open an attachment on your local browser, we route the traffic towards a secure cloud browser. You view it there, but then again, we create an air gap. So what we get time enough to do, the URL risk score, we look at the URL, we look at the logo. Most of us are very familiar with Microsoft logos, your Amazon logos, and especially in the US, it is DHL and FedEx where you get phished. However, what we've done is we've created a solution, an AI and ML solution, which looks into these factors. It looks into what is the size of the logo, or how is the color code of the logo, how is it placed, how is the element form, is the element form original one. So there are multiple things which will run. And even if it is a 0-hour phishing link which you open, it is a fresh link which I send it to Rajiv, and Rajiv opens it with Menlo's environment, he is going to get a block. He would not be able to pass through, all because you remember the number which I told you about, 1.2 billion web sessions which we look into every day. So we have good amount of data to understand, break it down, and then relearn our strategies and our threat intel. So it keeps happening. It's a ongoing process all the time. All right. Now moving further, what is that we do in terms of logo? So it's not just the logos which we look into to say if it is a smaller Microsoft logo or a bigger Microsoft logo, but then again, we have AI powered logo detection that happens for most of the sites. And one thing is Singapore Airlines is one of the sites, or also a customer of us. They use our heat shield, which is highly visible adaptive threat. They do use it, but they also said that they would want to start training their folks to understand what is that. So now we also study their logos, their phishing sites, to understand how is it. So it's a complete learning process. We do learn for the customers, and also as we grow throughout the whole internet. And these are just a few logos which you see here where you can get impersonated. All right. So being with Menlo and letting not the source code run on your local browser, but have a virtual gap is where it all comes in. This is a heat shield dashboard which you're looking into. Now we talk a lot about phishing, right? But it is also very crucial for us to let you know as customers that what is that we're going through, what are the logs which you're receiving, how many sites did your users visit. Most of you have enterprises which are more in number. It is not just 300 or 400 people which are looking into, but then again, the huge numbers. So this gives you as an acts as a first secondary line of defense where you can feed these data into your SIEM solution and helps you. And you can configure these policies on Menlo's dashboard, the admin console. It is a very granular level policies, those which can be made. Right now, the protection buffer. So as I said that I'll send a phishing link to Rajiv, and Rajiv is not a Menlo customer. So his reaction time to understand that it was a URL, which was a phishing URL, is going to be T plus 6 days. Because me as Menlo, I'm not depending on URL, but then again, any other security solution depends on the URL or the signature or the threat factor of that URL. However, it takes around like 6 days for any vendor to understand, or all of us to understand. A good example would be if you go ahead and pick up any phishing link which you've seen, which you've received in past 1 or 2 days. Just open that, copy that link, go to virus total, put it there for URL detection, and you'll see out of 96 vendors, it would be just half of the vendors who are telling this is a phishing link. Not everyone is still considering it as a phishing link. So there's a lot of buffer time you have, and that is why having a security in terms which executes the code then and there, rather depends on a detection basis, is very important, so that your exposure window is shorter and shorter. All right. We do have a few demos which we can deliver, or a few checks which we can provide you to run on your own enterprise or on own infrastructure, to understand how is that your current security solutions or the security stack which you have will act in favor of these evasive threats. So let us know. That is the second part which will continue. Moving further, ransomware and malicious file, it is a multi-layered inspection that happens. We just don't isolate your documents or your file, but what we do is we run a sandboxing check where we look into antivirus, we look into file hash, we do a sandboxing, and we also have file policies. Now, file policies is not just looking into what is malicious or non-malicious. We also safeguard you and your users from intentionally or unintentionally leaking out PII data, be it on a generative side, be it on any normal side, where you're uploading data, and by if it is an intentional work or an unintentional manner, we'll be able to safeguard. So it's not just the browser security which we have in terms of stopping ransomware by executing the code on an isolated platform or a sandboxing platform, but also the DLP capabilities which we bring in. It is not just 0 or 1. It is not just block or allow which we have. We do code level execution of to check what your users are trying to upload or download, and be it over the password protected files or not. So these are the things which we cover. Now, browser exploits. This is going to be something very interesting. The bug in the Windows OS itself, right? This many of you might remember this CVE, which is 2023 36719. So what happened was the the browser itself was reachable, and it was exploited because of the web speech API which was open. Many of us, we do not even close our browsers, right? We always keep getting this. So those who use Chrome, and they understand that on top right of the corner you have a, even now if you look into your Chrome, it shows that update browser or update Chrome. So why is that? Because there are a lot of open APIs which are present on our browsers, irrespective if you're using browsers from Chrome or Edge or any other browser, right? The patching needs to be done, but do we close our tabs? Do we close our browsers? Do we really shut down our machines? No, we do not. So there is no way a IT team would be able to manage these open APIs. So what we do is, I'm sorry. Yeah. This one. So what we do is we make sure that we harden your browsers. We bring in a posture management check, which runs reports in conjunction to CIS1 benchmarks, CIS2 benchmarks, and a few more benchmarks which are coming up. Now, you might ask, why do I need it? If you look at this CVE, which is from 2023, 36719, which was an exploitable web speech API. I'm sorry. Okay. So what happened is on October 2021, we were able to figure out that there is an API which is being malicious and is on our customer's browser. We were able to stop it, right? It was all good. Right from day one, when it hit on 2021, we were stopping it for our customers. But then again, do you know when was it being found by Google? Was during February 2022. So it is almost 3 months later. So the exploits were open. Most of the users or the enterprises who are not on a secure browser like Menlo, they were affected. And then again in 2024 is where Google started releasing its indicators of compromise, which we call IOCs. But if you look at this from a perspective, we were able to stop these 3-4 months before. So this is your exposure window, which keeps lessening as you use Menlo. It's not just on ransomware, malware, even the exploits or the CVEs which are open on the trusted enterprise browsers which you use, be it Chrome and Edge. and I am using multiple browser names. You might have a question like, is it a new browser which we provide? No, it is not a new browser which we provide. And also we are browser agnostic. So irrespective of what browser your enterprise users are using or have been adapted to, we'll be able to provide you a security there. All right. And now, since you have a lot of users who are using browser, a lot of DLP capabilities, I told you about, we told you about CVEs, but what happens if a user is trying to do something and he had a breach, or he's trying to leak out data, intentional or unintentional way? You need to have a proof. It's not just that the log is being gonna be enough. What we have is something called browsing forensics. We bring in capabilities to make sure that whenever there is a breach, or whenever there is an attack, or whenever there is a false trigger that happens from a user, or a true trigger that happens from a user, we start capturing that browser session into screenshots and play it to you in a form of video. So you'll have complete proof of what was happening, even if the user was trying to breach, or was it intentional, or was it unintentional, what was he trying to type. You'll be able to get this. So a complete forensic time lapse and a complete picture of the user's interaction. The reason is you would have efficient search and discovery data on this. All right. This is it. So how do we proceed next? So there are multiple ways. One is you can try menlosecurity.com, try.menlosecurity.com. There are free self-service demos. There are a lot of use cases we've established. A lot of rendering performance evaluations are done. So you can use that site. But the next thing is to check how your infrastructure is going to act in terms of evasive threats. So all you have to do is, there is a portal. You can reach out to Rajiv. Rajiv will give you a link where you can register and then run a test on your infrastructure. But however, make sure that your SOC teams are aware that you are going to run an assessment, because these assessments are ICAR files of evasive threats. So no matter what security stack or solution you have, you are going to get a message that you are being breached. But however, these are ICAR files, not going to harm you in any way. It's just going to show you in a PDF format that if it was a breach or a no breach. But it's not just about evasive threats. I've been mentioning that it's more than that. It's more about making sure your users are in conjunction to what your enterprise policies are, in conjunction to what your applications you're using, they are good enough. They are making sure that there are no threats. But however, a larger use case values are there. You can connect to, again, Rajiv and his team. They'll walk you through the use cases. And once you understand the use cases, once you have a success criteria from a browser security perspective, what is that you want to achieve, we can definitely get into conversations. We can do a POV. Usually you see POVs are only for 15 days, 20 days. However, we do a 60-day evaluation. So you have the CSM teams who give you the reports, a set of SCs who work with you. They give you their own use cases. You can have your own use cases. You can evaluate and build a stronger use case in terms of why you would need a browser security or any form of security which is not letting the code to be executed. Which again, as in the market, there is only one vendor who does this, and that is Menlo Security. So I hope I wrapped it within time. Rajiv, let me know if there are any questions.
Yeah.
Anyone has?
I would leave the floor open for any questions if anybody has. I'm sure there would be a few questions in mind. We would be more than happy to take them.
Kelly, can we have the mic open for everyone, please?
Okay.
Can you confirm if it's open for everyone?
Yes, it's open for everyone.
Perfect. Request for everyone: if you have questions, kindly unmute yourself. Please introduce yourself and just shoot and ask your
Yes, we
questions.
have a hand raiser from Vijay. Hi, Vijay.
Yeah, hi, Rajiv and like.
This is Vijay Kumar Talreja, Global Group CIO and CISO of Indospace Group. The question I had is that while putting your tool will do the technical part of the protection that you need from ransomware, malware, and phishing. But from my experience, what I have seen is the most important thing in security is that your employees are your weakest link in your security chain. That's the human beings. And I have across two of my organizations, I have seen that by giving a very small bait, by doing a social engineering exercise, by giving a very small bait of an Amazon voucher or a movie voucher, how gullible people are, and including senior people, and they have compromised their email credentials. And best part is after getting their email credentials compromised also, they feel there's nothing big deal. It's just my email credentials which have been compromised. They don't realize what is the implication of your email credentials getting compromised. So I think most important thing is creating that cybersecurity awareness amongst your employees, and which has to be on an ongoing basis, because every day the cyber attacks are increasing. There's a recent case which is sort of talk of the town in our CIO CISO groups, where a CIO has got uh, sort of become a victim of digital arrest and lost almost 1.11 crores in India. And that's what people were surprised at. How can a CIO who is supposed to educate other people on these things, also become a victim? So, is there anything that Menlo also offers or can help in along with the protection that you're offering as a solution, to bundle it along with the cybersecurity awareness also? And again, nowadays there are a lot of third-party platforms offering that, but again, you don't want to again have a multitude of solutions. Everybody's trying to move towards consolidation and move towards a single solution. So that's what I would like to know.
So one thing what Menlo believes in is you will always be at risk if you are letting your browser's source code run on your machines. Now, that is going to be the biggest factor. So all of these phishing attacks, ransomware attacks, malware attacks, they are going to affect you only if the source code is running on your machine and the date, if you're, as you said, credential theft or any data that is stolen. So what Menlo does is we make sure that every click, everything that happens on your browser is not happening physically on your browser, instead happens virtually on the secure cloud browser. So we isolate all the traffic. There is an air gap. We actually use to have a policy called $1 million policy, where we would say if you ever have a breach by using Menlo, we would assure you for $1 million. So that actually is still there. So not from a training perspective, but then again from making sure that you do not really have to worry about what you click on, Menlo is the solution to go with, or that is what we've been pushing out. So, Rajiv, anything you would want to add on these lines?
I just wanted to add, Vijay, excellent question, and I think excellent thought process, right? And we firmly believe that cybersecurity awareness is a continuous activity ourselves. Uh, I think where we where we sort of want to answer your question is, while Menlo may not be on the awareness or education space, I think what Menlo does is that, for example, if you're using say a Project or any other
Hello.
LMS tool, to sort of increase awareness of your users. Uh, Not everyone will be at the same
हमारे
awareness level.
सेशन डालेंगे પછી કહીશ. Bye.
So Menlo actually assumes that not everybody is at the same level, right? So some will pick up certain aspects, some may not be able to pick up aspects. There will be BEC attacks happening on your users. There will be BEC attacks happening on C-level execs. But anybody who's using a browser, whether they are well read, unaware, or ignorant, if they are clicking anything which is malicious on the browser, uh, irrespective of whether they are aware of it or not, Menlo will stop it. So I think it is sort of at the next level. Uh, People who are running their LMSs and running their learning management systems and awareness programs, I think they will always augment, what Menlo does by improving the awareness. So I would still think that while the idea of you thinking that Menlo could possibly have an LMS on their own, At this point in time, I think that's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, another quick related question, since you talked about browser security and that's what Menlo does. Now, most of the people today consume their email on their mobile phones rather than the laptops, because most of people are mobile or working hybrid or working from home. So,
Right.
and typically there you may not use the browser for accessing your mails. You will typically use your, mail icon on your mobile phone, and which may be the native mobile mail icon or the Gmail icon, depending on whatever mailing solution you're using. So, how does Menlo take care of that aspect of accessing your mails from mobile phones?
I'll go out on this. So, Vijay, the way we do it is there are two things. One is, or before that, I would want to tell you one of the use cases which are being used. So, Singapore Airlines, being a customer, they have a lot of their crew using their mobiles and their tablets, right? Now, they were looking for a solution which can provide them security on those things. So, we do have developed something which can safeguard you on your mobile phones. From the agent perspective, we have agents coming up for Android tablets and iOS tablets. But for your current mobile phones, we do have something called mobile isolation. Unless you have your machines or your mobile phones in a managed environment. If you have it in a managed environment, you can implement our solutions on those. So it's an horizon beyond using phones. It is the usage of tablets, is the usage of iPads, that is also which we are seeing is coming into play.
Right. So I think we had
Okay,
Piyush
thanks,
also.
like, for your reply. Yeah.
Thanks, Vijay, for those questions. I think we had Piyush as well raise up his hand.
Yeah, hi. So I have a question with respect to the compliance point that how Menlo is looking at the financial market, Indian markets with respect to the compliance, because I hope Menlo must be aware what all regulations and compliance the Indian industry, financial market and banking sector is having. So what are those things that Menlo has taken or Menlo is working, who can, so they can work with the financial markets of Indian country?
Piyush, thank you for that question. That is an excellent question. That is going to be a tough answer for me to give. I'll give you that. But then again, so let me put this way, from a compliance perspective, where we see or what we see a lot of from our customers, current customers, and the prospects which we're speaking to is going to be the adaptation of DPDPA, the primarily that they are going to be worried a lot about being penalized for the data which they have. It is not just the data which you maintain, but then again, what is that you do with the data, and making sure that there is no internal breach that happens is one of the use cases a lot of the CIOs and the CISOs are worried about. So we do have last mile DLP, which is going to safeguard you on making sure that no data leaves unattended, or be it internal attack that happens. That is one. Now, SEBI and RBI have their own guidelines. They do not talk about having a virtual segmentation of your network, but then again, they do talk about segmenting your network. So one way you can use Menlo is by using the air gap which we have, or a virtual segmentation. This is something which has been again achieved by one of the government agencies from the Southeast Asian countries as well, where the government said you have to go ahead and have network segmentations, and you'll have to have two machines. You'll have to use two machines to, use for your office work. One would be a laptop for your internal applications, and one would be for the external applications. So Menlo went in there, we fixed that issue for them, and we gave them a network segmentation there. But in terms of the compliances, we haven't heard a lot from particularly that in any fintech or any BFSI want specific certifications or compliances to be done. However, we would be happy to achieve those if there are anything which you are looking for. But with our current compliance certifications, we stand at SOC 2, ISO 27001. We have HIPAA, and a few more certifications in line specifically from region wise. We recently, the banking sector in Korea recently needed a certifications and we were able to do it. And if you are someone who's representing a fintech or a BFSI and need specific compliance reports from us, we'll be happy to deliver those.
So where is the Menlo cloud? It is in India or it is outside India?
It's in India. So we have across the globe 44 on the whole. And in India, we have two POPs. One is in Mumbai, one is in Hyderabad.
Okay. And is hosted on the
GC.
public cloud or
Yes, it's
GC?
hosted on.
Okay. Okay. So tomorrow
Just to
if
add to
India,
Piyush,
if sorry, yeah, Rajiv.
yeah, Piyush, go ahead, Piyush, go ahead.
So in future, if Indian banking and financial industry wants to deploy Menlo security, so from the RBI point of view, it is compliant because it is hosted in India
Yes.
perimeter only. But what about the data, backend data, whether it is getting replicated as a DR outside India or it should be in India or it is in India? How this is defined in backend that we need to understand.
So one is we do not look into any of your data, even the browsing which you're doing, we do not look into it or have any storage. All we do is take a look at your logs, who is the user, who's the user ID. Apart from that, we do not look into any sort of metadata. And all
But
the
the but
DRs,
but 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 are these logs are also getting replicated
yes,
outside the India or it is in India
no,
only?
they are in India only. Unless you are a GCC and you would want to have replication in your primary country and secondary country, unless you say that it doesn't happen outside India, except for everything happening in India. And it's the same thing for your user. If you have a user who is geolocked to India, but then again is however traveling across Europe, his traffic will be made sure that it comes to India, gets processed, and then goes back to him. So you have geolocking availability in that manner as well, where you can make sure that no user is trying to access anything outside India or
Okay,
being
fine.
outside of India.
Got it.
Yeah, actually, I had the same question related to data sovereignty, whether the data is going to be residing in India, the primary data, as well as the replicated data to your DR side, whether both will reside in India or not. So, which you have
Yep, they are.
confirmed, right? They both will reside in India. Okay, thank you.
I just
Thank
wanted to add, to that, before anybody else has a question. I just wanted to add my two bit to Piyush's question as well as Vijay's addition. Piyush, from a perspective of compliances today, I think one of the biggest challenges that even compliance or governing agencies are finding, and which comes back to PII data today, right, is how do you protect PII data going out of your organization? Uh, to augment that, I think one of the very interesting use cases that Menlo has is how to block things like generative AI today, right? For example, somebody puts up a code saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you analyze this code for me?" Or somebody uploads a document which may have PII data, and it asks ChatGPT to actually analyze it. Menlo has the capability today to understand this and stop this in real time, right? So what happens is, while an RBI or a SEBI may not have a guideline saying do this on the browser or you should do this on the browser, most of the things that they want CIOs and CISOs to take care of, from a browser perspective, Menlo stops all of that.
Okay.
So generative AI
Hello.
today is the
Yeah.
most interesting use case that we have come across. We've been talking to multiple organizations, multiple CISOs. One of the biggest use cases today is how do I control ChatGPT? How do I control my users using ChatGPT? I want them to use, but I want them to use it in a restricted way. And that's where I think Menlo really helps CISOs today.
Mm.
At the beginning of 2024, the conversation was, is it AI for security or security for AI? But now what the ground reality which we see is that they want security from these leakages, these PII data leakages. That is the need of the hour, more than to understand if it is going to be AI for security or security for AI.
Like one more question. Today it is a war between AI versus AI. So I just wanted to know that most of the ransomware attacks today are very sophisticated AI generated attacks. And how is Menlo Security solution, has inbuilt AI capabilities to tackle these kind of AI generated attacks?
Yes. The first thing what we have to understand is the mechanism which we have on the secure cloud browser is AI. But getting out of it, and when you look at from our overview, you'll understand that it is not AI which is placing your data on the secure cloud browser. Anything that you open on the browser is going to get directly routed to the browser on the secure cloud browser, right? Now, irrespective of even if it is an AI which is delivering a malware or ransomware, it doesn't matter to us because the execution happens somewhere else. The target from a attacker side was your browser, but then again, the execution is happening on our secure cloud browser. So there is no way the attacker would be able to mitigate into our cloud infrastructure to understand, okay, the attack is not happening on Rajiv's machine, rather than that it is happening on the secure cloud browser which Rajiv is using. Let me attack that. That is not going to happen. It is always going to attack at the endpoint which is there, which is the browser. So we have proxy or we use agent to route your traffic to us. So there is no way it will be a point of concern to understand even if it is a sophisticated attack coming your way. Everything which you click on, unless you whitelist it, will always be on the secure cloud browser. I hope that answers your question.
Hi, Vijay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Perfect. Perfect. Any other questions? For like or myself, we'll be glad to address them. If not, then we will give some time back to you. From your busy schedule, and let's just take a minute more to see if there is any questions coming around. Otherwise, we will close the presentation. Any last takers for questions? I guess not. Let me, thank everyone who joined, this webinar. We hope you've taken back, enough value from it, to start set your thought process thinking, going. As a next step, what we would like to do is we will reach out to you, not just to thank you for the webinar, but also to, explain. There was a next step slide which like had, presented. We will give you all those next steps, and anybody who wants to essentially take those next steps with us, we'll be more than glad to help you through that journey. Thank you once again on behalf of Menlo as well as on behalf of Synoptiq, and thanks to my team to ensure that this webinar was successful, and thanks to Menlo's team, and shout out to Kelly specifically, who during holidays has helped us set this webinar up. But most importantly, thanks to all of you who attended the webinar from your busy schedules. We wish you a Merry Christmas in advance, and a Happy New Year in advance, and happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv. I echo the same. Huge gratitude to everyone who joined in on a Friday, that too before the holidays started. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Rajiv, the same thing goes to your team as well, working on such a short notice. Thank you. And Kelly, as usual, thank you. Good evening to you and good evening to everyone else. Happy holidays.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.